Hey, what's going on, guys? Kalamazi here. In today's video, it's going to be covering how to optimize your character in World of Warcraft, looking at raid boss simulations, Warcraft logs, how to read logs in certain ways, cooldown tracking, how to optimize cooldowns around certain raid bosses, and making your character the best it possibly can be, at least, where I would do it, which is, in World of Warcraft. I've been wanting to make this video for a long time, because I've been getting a lot of questions over the past few months, honestly years, how to read logs, how to sim my character, how to do X, Y, Z. I'm going to show you how I do it. People might change, or things might vary. People may do things in different ways. If that's the case, great, good for them. This is how I do it, how I want to prep my character heading into a boss fight, heading into maybe a new raid, simulating gear, looking at cooldowns, and reading logs. Also breaking down Warcraft log stats, all that. So we're going to look at all of that today and hopefully give y'all the best possible idea or vision of how to optimize your own character. Now, we're going to start off here with raid bots. Raid bots is a tool. If you don't use raid bots, you should use raid bots. Raid bots has fundamentally just changed the way that stat weights, priorities, all that stuff, even gearing is basically looked and viewed at in modern day Warcraft. Stat priorities, for the most part, have been a thing of the past for a long time. There is like a general stat priority still for every class and spec for the most part. Unless there are like hard thresholds you want to hit, stat priorities vary for everyone's character. It is not just a, hey, I want to stack haste and crit and mastery and verse. So every item I want is going to be haste and crit. That's not really how it works anymore, because if you stack pure haste and crit, yeah, mastery and verse might not be as strong for you as haste and crit on the surface. But when you have no mastery and verse whatsoever, they become stronger and stronger, and you want more of those effects, right? So that was the flaw with stat weights and priorities and things in the past, older WoW. Now that we have raid bots, the robot, the machine, this can give you the answer. And when someone asks a question about, hey, what are my stat weights? What should I do? I have 12.72% haste, 19.64 crit. There is not one person on the planet that's ever lived or is alive right now, including myself, that can give you that answer. Not one. But the robot can. The robot knows. So, for example, if you're looking at running a general simulation on raid bots, you download the Simulation Craft add-on in game, you type /simc, you copy your character data over, and you go over to raid bots. Now, there are a handful of options here. We're going to look at all of them briefly. You're going to see stat weights and gear compare down here. These are legacy tools. Stat weights is essentially how stat weights used to be, how stat weights and priorities used to be found in the olden days. They even recommend here not doing it anymore. This is an outdated tool and often results in suboptimal results. You can still do these to find your general stat weights. I'll do them sometimes, but I'm not doing it for the reasons most people probably are. I'm doing it for very specific or niche reasons, and that is that. I'm not going to sim as demonology here because demo takes 10 years to sim. But point being, if you are looking at finding your optimal stats for gems and enchants and all that, the best way for you to approach that is to get your correct spec, whatever you want, put on your right gear, and actually do a top gear sim on raid bots. So let's say you're at the raid bots main page here, top gear, find the best gear and talents for your character. Paste the information here, and this will populate a list of gear. All you have in your bags equipped, everything with your enchants on, is right here. For example, if I wanted to sim, let's say I wanted to simulate this robe here, comparatively to the one I have on here. This is crit and haste, this is haste and verse. Obviously, this is hero, this is myth. It's not going to be as good. But if this was myth and I wanted to simulate these two, and I'll say they were both 684, I can just click this, and the simulation will now run both of those in comparison in the simulation and give you the highest result. If this item, let's say, is 655, but I want to sim it at a higher eye level, once again, it can't be myth in this sim, but if it was, you can click this button and upgrade the actual eye level to whatever you want to sim it at, and then it will simulate that and give you the results of this item being upgraded at a higher level. So you can really optimize your gear sets here. Maybe you want this robe for AF or Destro or Marksman versus BM or whatever spec you're playing in the game, it can give you those results if you run those sims for each spec. Now let's say, for example, as well, there's an item in game you want to simulate. Let's say, for example, you don't have a Muggs' Moxie Jug. You can go up here, type in Mug, find the actual item you want. Let's say 684, myth, whatever. Put in the information, put in the eye level, click the item, and scroll down here. It has now added Muggs' Moxie Jug to your actual options. I already have it, so I don't really need it, but you can add any item you want in the game at any eye level by just doing that and then going down and finding it and selecting it and say, hey, now we can sim it, right? So as far as finding the right pieces and this and that, That's a great way to do that. If you have multiple items, you can come in here and simulate all that. If I wanted to simulate this ring of perpetual conflict versus my miniature roulette wheel, get rid of this, and my diamond, for example, all I would do is click this ring, and now it's going to sim all three of these rings here and give me the best overall combination. And if I hit this, for example, let's deselect this robe here. You can see the iterations going up and down here. This is because it's running more sims. It's going 30K is going to be basically these three rings simmed for the highest overall combination. If I click this robe, it's simming this robe in addition to all these rings being simmed together for the highest overall combination. So more things you add in, more iterations you get, because it's doing more and more work, more and more combinations. Let's say, for example, I simulate this. It will give me a result which shows the highest overall combination of rings, whatever you're simming. And that is, hey, okay, what will give me the most overall damage? Now, that's not that complicated, but it gets a bit more complicated when you're looking at running stat weight sims and things to find your best overall gems and enchants. So, for example, I sim the rings. There are different ring combinations here. You can see this ring is actually a loss over what I had here, roulette wheel and jasper diamond. But regardless, now I know this ring, big crit mastery compared to big haste crit, is going to be a 27,000 DPS loss comparatively to XYZ, whatever I'm simming, right? Now, if you want to get a little more in depth here, this is where stat weight sims are very relevant and come into effect and all that. If you want to simulate stat weights, or I guess run a sim to find your best overall gems and enchants, which is where mostly stat weights and things lie. This is where this section down here comes into play. So I think by default, this is unchecked, replace existing gems and enchants, and I don't think any of these are checked for you guys as well. They might be, no big deal. You can emulate this regardless and get the best overall for whatever you're looking for. So let's say, for example, my rings have crit mastery, haste crit haste, whatever. I have different combinations of gems, different colors to feed into my culminating blasphemite here. Obviously, rainbow gems give more stats, and you want to find the best overall stat distribution of gems and enchants, but also calculate what gives you the most value out of your culminating blasphemite. And this is where, when I said not one person in the face of the planet ever in history or living nowadays will be able to give you the right answer, but the robot can. The robot can run that simulation for you and give you the right answer. So let's say, for example, I have my culminating blasphemite. These check marks here already indicate what you have socketed and things. I'm going to check these regardless. It's fine. This is indeed the crit effect increase gem. And I want to have basically rainbow gems here to add more value to this, right? It's very important if you're running this gem to click always use and then only max colors. There's some caveats to this. Sometimes you will use it, sometimes you won't, but either way, select this, it's fine. And then you will go through and select multiple gems, what you want to sim. So let's say, for example, you don't have any gems. For whatever reason, you haven't done anything. You're going to want likely a rainbow of colors here. So I'll just select a handful of these. We'll crit haste, haste crit, mastery crit, verse haste. I'll select a handful of these, right? Now it'll say select additional options here, because theoretically I haven't selected any other items to simulate here. It's all just my baseline gear, what I'm wearing. If I click this, for example, it'll be okay. But I'm not simming a chest here, I'm simming gems and enchants. The reason it says this is because we have not checked this box yet. Whenever you check replace existing gems and enchants, there'll be a lot of iterations here now. Looking at 1.4 million, right? What this box says essentially when you check this is it's saying, hey, I want you to take this ring, all of my socketed items, this belt, the bracers, so on and so forth, pull the gems out in the sim, and then run a simulation with all these gems taken into account and fill the holes with every combination possible. That's why it has 1.4 million. This is why nobody can give you the answer for stat weights in the world for your exact character, because your character varies in gear. You might not have a charged hex sword with these stats on it. You might not have this fan, this buzzer beater, whatever it is, with crit and mastery. You might not have a jug or a Kazan or a roulette wheel with crit and haste. You might have different gearing. This is why everyone's character varies. This is why it's required to run this sim to get the best overall output for your character, right? Now, the more gems you add in here, these iterations will climb a lot because you're changing every gem, that possibility, right? So if I add another gem in here, for example, it goes from 1.4, 3.08, right? If I add another one here, 4 million, 5 million, 6 million, 7 million. I have the premium sub here. I'm limited to 16 million, right? Also 13 gems is the max, but the more gems you add in, the longer it will actually run. It'll take to do all kind of stuff, right? If you want to sim different ring enchants as well, you can do that also. You can go up here. I have crit already on my ring, so if I click crit, it's not going to replace that. But if I click haste and mastery, I will get more iterations to run, but it's going to sim all my rings with a combination of crit and haste and all these gems individually. If I do mastery, I'm pretty close to hitting the max threshold. If I hit this, we're basically there, right? So this is why nobody can ever tell you what your stat weights are, except for the robot. The computer, the machines, Skynet knows. I don't know. But if you want to do that, this is how you find your best overall secondary stats. If you, like for gems and enchants, all that, right? If you are playing Seriously Signet, just a heads up, you want to click it obviously, or if you already have it on, it's whatever. You have to go down here and select these 3 gems, or whatever you're playing. I think it's just Stormbringer, Fathom Dweller, and Windslinger, mostly everybody, to sim that ring properly in this sim. Because if you don't select these, it'll pull the gems out of Seriously Signet, but it won't replace them with things because you can't put these in there. Just a heads up. Yeah. So, and this will give you the overall best results outcome for your simulation based on what you're doing. If you want to change weapon enchants, radiant power, authority of the depths, you even have helm enchants here. There's a bunch of things you can sim. You can sim whatever you want, right? And that is basically how you run gem and enchant sims on your character to find the best stats for whatever you are indeed doing. Very quickly, as far as like what to sim down here, there are some settings down here for the most part. These are all pretty much irrelevant. It doesn't matter a whole lot. The things you're going to look at here, for the most part, for someone just picking this up for the first time, leave all this where it's at, is going to be fight style, bosses, and fight length. Leave this. I think it's weekly. Leave it at weekly. It's fine. Or nightly is fine. Don't use latest. Patchwork, what you're going to run pretty much 90% of the time, 99% of the time, right? For a boss setting, right? One boss, patchwork, single target. The most common sim you see is patchwork, one boss, 5 minutes. Now, certain items, like I have Kazan, for example, gain more value the longer fights go on. It gains stacks up to 20. When it hits 20, it stays at 20, maintains max int, and then begins doing the fire damage effect. So fights that last longer for I have Kazan will actually gain more value, right? So if I sim a patchwork, one target, 5-minute encounter, like this, for example, right? It'll show I have Kazan at a certain value. If I end up simming it for 7 minutes, I have Kazan will gain more value because it's sitting at max stacks for longer and doing its max effect for longer. 8, 9, 10, once again, further increase the value of I have Kazan. So very important to keep that in mind for certain items, trinkets, whatever, so on and so forth, based on what you're simming. Now, there are other options here. Pretty much most people will just ignore these. There's a lot of variance in these. Dungeon Slice, people try and sim M+ with Dungeon Slice. For the most part, if you're trying to sim trash packs and stuff, like an M+, most people, myself included, just do 8 to 10 targets. I'll do 10 for a minute, sometimes a minute and a half, sometimes 40, depending on what it is. And this is the best way to like emulate a trash pack in M+. When it comes to like dungeon slice and things, it tries to work in, right, 6-minute slice of dungeons, overrides fight length. Sometimes they factor in like patchwork sims with movement, with no movement, with target spawning in, without, with lust. It's just very complicated and not incredibly accurate at all times, right? When it comes to target dummy, execute patchwork, hectic ag cleave, so on and so forth, a lot of simulations, it's very hard to sim things. For example, like simming phase 2 of Mythic and Shrek. Can't really simulate that. Trying to simulate, what's the last boss list here? Gallywix or whatever. Mugsy, right? Can't really simulate Mugsy. A lot of things when it comes to sims, for running sims for niche encounters or things where ads spawn in every so often, like shielded bots on Mugsy or one-armed bandit, a great example. You really can't run sims for those scenarios that well. You have to apply logic to that. You have to apply, okay, my class has this damage profile. This is why Destro's good here, or AF is good here, or Marksman's good here, or BM's good here, whatever. And then I can further build upon that profile with the baseline knowledge that I have of my class and stats, so on and so forth. You can't really simulate those fights very well, but you can apply logic to them and go from there. So summarizing this again, most of the time you'll see sims patchwork, one boss, 5 minutes, like general raid fights and all that. If you're simulating M+, honestly, most just do patchwork, 8 targets, 9 or 10 for a minute, minute and a half, 40 seconds, give or take. It's important to keep in mind if you're simulating any kind of scenario, especially M+ and things where it's a shorter fight length, classes like Demonology Warlock have cooldowns that are a minute long. So if you simulate a minute, you're going to get Tyrant being your minute cooldown basically in that window, and then when the sim ends, it's coming off cooldown. So honestly, your minute and a half sim is very likely higher than your minute sim because you're getting a cooldown right when this ends. A class like Destro, however, with 2-minute cooldowns in your Infernal, a minute in Malevolence, but whatever, will have your Infernal ending at about 35, and then you have about 25-ish seconds of no Infernal. But whether you sim a minute or a minute and a half, you're not getting your major CD back in that simulation regardless. You'll get a minor one, but point being, it's important to keep in mind your specs, damage profile, and M plus sims, whatever in general. Even if a fight ends at 5 minutes in patchwork, one target, based around when your class cooldowns, when and why. So that's how to run sims for your gems and your enchants. Nobody in the world can tell you what to sim for your stats except for the robot, Skynet, the machines, this machine here. It knows, no one else knows. Einstein don't know. Who else is smart? Nobody knows but the robot. The robot knows. Use the robot. Putting top gear sims all that aside, there are a couple other tools here I want to show you. For the most part, advanced sims, people don't need to use this. It's fine. This is more for like advanced stuff, PTR stuff, whatever. Don't worry about this. When it comes to quick simming, if you wanted to simulate your character with whatever build you exported to see how much damage you do, you can just put it in here. Run quick sim. It will give you your overall damage output. When it comes to other things like Droptemizer, this is a tool that not a lot of players are really aware of. To a similar extent, Gear Compare can be used too, but Gear Compare is basically what you do in Top Gear at this point by adding gear manually, like we talked about. Droptemizer is a very good tool to use as well, and here's your overall quick sim results. Very fast. This is my character, what I can do damage-wise with these parameters, right? Droptemizer. So if you input your character's gear here, this is a very good tool because you can go in here and select Liberation from Undermine, whatever current rate it is, doesn't matter. M+ dungeons for that season, Delves, the Catalyst. This will simulate gear for the Catalyst if you want to catalyze things. Professions, you can put in whatever eye level you want, 75, 81, whatever stats you want, and it will sim every single combination possible, or every single stat of any item you can craft for your character possible, and give you the highest output, or I guess the results of whatever that sim actually is. If you want to go in here and select the raid, for example, you can go in here and select the raid. Mythic, let's say 662 to 678. You can go down here more and select what eye level you want. Maybe you want max myth, 684. If you want to add a socket to it, you can add, or a gem. You can add a gem if you want as well. You can go down here and it selects all the gear in the raid you can possibly put on your character. All this stuff's fine. Run the sim. These sims will show you the highest. It will show you all the gear. It will simulate all the gear in the raid, or all the profession gear here. You can even do dungeons if you want as well, and it will simulate all the M+ gear that you have, or that's available to you, whether it's from the actual Great Vault, for example. You can set it to Great Vault level at 662, or you can just say, hey, I got it at the end of the dungeon, +10. Max Hero, or you can go Great Vault, Max Myth, and it will sim all of these options possible, and it will show you if any of them are a gain and what that gain actually is. For example, crafting wise, I don't have anything left. I'm done crafting, but you can see if I crafted a pair of boots with haste and mastery, I lose 1.6k DPS. The raid, if I go into the raid, I get some upgrades here. For the most part, most of the gear in the raid is a downgrade for me at this point. However, if I got boots from Mugsy or Cauldron, really any boots in general, and catalyze them, I can gain 3.2k DPS. But everything else here, it has simmed for me as well, and it is actually going to be a downgrade for the most part across the board, right? And this varies per spec, but you can get this done very easily if you want to know what bosses are good for you in the raid, what are bad, so on and so forth. Same for dungeons, takes a little longer, more larger loot table, I should say. But if you're looking to like target certain dungeons early on for week 1, week 2 M+ farming and end of dungeon loot, you can run this sim, tell you what's up. If you're looking just, hey, what's good in my Great Vault? Why not? You can run this sim too. If you're looking to see what bosses you want in the raid still, you can run this as well. It will give you those results. For example, my Great Vault slots M+, not a whole lot to gain anymore. A lot of boots in here. A lot of boots, a neck from Meadery. A trinket, this is sim bait, a neck from Meadery. Boots, Scarred and Core, and more boots. But if you want to know for your own character, that's how you do it. So that is summarizing raid bots, how to use it effectively for stats, profiles, patchwork, single target, Mythic Plus, AoE, all of that, and Droptemizer. Gear comparison there as well. Hopefully that answers any questions you might have had about raid bots. I would encourage you to learn how to do this because once you learn how to do it, you can do it super easy on the fly for anything and really fully optimize your character. Now, when it comes to Warcraft Logs, this is a Warcraft Logs, I don't know, warcraftlogs.com. It was actually developed by somebody in my guild. They made it a long time ago. The name is Kira. Shout out Kira. Warcraft Logs is a tool that basically takes the combat log in Warcraft. If you log it and uploads all that data for every character in the raid, dungeon, whatever you're logging, and will give you the exact cast sequencing, everything you need to know about what happened in that encounter, if it was a good parse, bad parse, so on and so forth, whatever. Right. Now, the way this works, if you're looking at M+ dungeons, you can go under here, look for ranking, stats, so on and so forth. Dungeons aren't logged as much as raids are. They should be, but they actually aren't. But if you're looking for like raid stuff and all that, you can hop in here. The current raid is Liberation of Undermine, Vexy, Cauldron, Rick, Styx, all these bosses here. You can look through and get super in depth if you actually want to. Let's say, for example, you're looking at rankings. So like the top parses for overall everyone, for all the bosses here. You can select Mythic, Heroic, Normal, LFR. All bosses are certain bosses here. Regions, classes, factions, whatever else you want here. The patch, if they partitioned, basically froze logs and made a new set of them because of the patch coming out, whatever, sure, great. If you want PI and externals in here, say, hey, yes, or maybe exclude them all. You can click that button too. A lot of options up here, right? Let's say, for example, we're looking at top 10 parses with all the classes and specs in the game combined. You can see here's Vexy, Cauldron, Rick Reverb, Styx, so on and so forth. They're all right here. Let's say you play a Warlock. I play a Warlock. You can play whatever class here, apply any class, doesn't matter. Let's say you play a Warlock and you want to see all Warlock parses. You can click Warlock and it'll bring up all the lock parses, mixing in Demo, Destro, whatever you want. So you just want to see Affliction. You can click AF, and it'll bring up all of the AF parses on these fights. Is AF as good as Demo, Destro, and Vexy? No, not really. Well, depending where it's at, maybe. Yes, no. Either way, it will show all AF here and filter out all of the Demo and Destro logs if you don't select those. Now, Warcraft Logs is a great tool because people often ask, hey, what is the best spec on Vexy or Cauldron or Rick based on the class that I'm playing? So you're playing a Warlock, you play all three specs. This can give you a good look at what's performing the best in that fight. Now, what's performing the best might not always be the best spec in progression, but that's more of like an advanced, you need to know how to like sort of break that all down kind of thing. If you're looking to just play what's doing the most damage, Warcraft Logs can typically give you a pretty good overall breakdown. On top of that, you can see what talents they played here. For example, this is Shelley, I believe. He ended up playing Demonology in this fight. If you click this button here, you'll pull up all of his talents. His gearing, so on and so forth. It'll even show trinkets over here. He played a House of Cards and a Mug's Moxie Jar. If they are playing Seriously Signet, the ring, most aren't, if they are, it'll show it over here as well. You can see hero talents. However, over this, he played Diabolist. Everybody else for Destro played Hellcaller here, right? Cauldron, similar extent. You've got Destro here, all Hellcaller sorts. Trinkets for this fight mostly contain Mug's Moxie Jar and House of Cards. Here's an Eye of Kazan. Here is a Entropus Garden Core. So it gives you a good idea of what trinkets they're wearing, if they're wearing Seriously Signet, what hero talents they're playing, what talents they're playing, if they got any externals, if you got Power Infusion, if you got maybe Blessing of Autumn, which you see from time to time on certain sims or certain parses here and there. You can hover over this and it will show you as well. Right, eye level, whatever you want to see for the most part is basically here. If you go into more specific filtering, like under just say only Destro, right? Not all specs, and click on a fight, for example. So Vexy, just Destro only. It'll actually show you at the top here, the talents that I don't know if it's top 100 or whatever. I think it's all parses. Top 100 breakdown. It will show you the talents that were played by the top 100 parses here, right? Now, you can see pretty much it's set in stone, cut and dry here for this. But if you look more closely for this fight, being Vexy, if you hover over it, everybody played this talent node. But this talent node is shared between Havoc and Mayhem. So it shows about half and half being Mayhem versus Havoc here, right? Comparatively, Cataclysm and Inferno, everybody's playing Kata. Everyone's playing Ashen, everyone's playing Reverse Entropy here. This is a hybrid node. Everyone's playing Infernal, everyone's playing Ember Storm. So you can see even more in depth what people are playing if you hover over them and look in that general direction. You can see here a good mix of Havoc and Mayhem. You know, the purple one versus the red one, which is going to be this talent right here. Now, when it comes to getting more in-depth for cooldown sequencing and like holding cooldowns, popping cooldowns, so on and so forth, Warcraft Logs basically enables the site we're going to look at here as well. And you can do all this and find all this in Warcraft Logs, or you can do it much easier and simpler using a different website. Still a great one. Once again, uses Warcraft Logs as well. Another great one called Lorrgs, LORRGS.io. Right. This looks at top parses by spec. So for example, if we're looking at all Destro, whatever here, and I click, hey, Destro, this is going to pull up all the Destro parses here and show exactly when that player casts their cooldowns, their Infernal, their Malevolence, their pet attack, big pet demon army comes in for BM Hunters, whatever they cast, whatever it's called, Bestial Wrath. It'll show all of it for any spec you want if you click it and use the right parameters here, right? Now the artist claimers you're talking about, hey, people CD at certain points for certain reasons, all that. The point being, let's say you want to see a Destro lock. Click this on Vexy. There you go. Here's a wall of cooldowns from the top 100 parses as to where they CD'd, why they, or where they CD'd, what they CD'd, and when. Now, if you want to see maybe Cauldron Carnage, you can click this button over here. Show you Cauldron. If you want to see Mythic Chrome King Gallywix, guess what? That's there as well. You can see, for example, the bosses are all here. You can go Mythic or you can go Heroic. You can filter by whatever you want here. You can filter by classes under this page too if you really want, right? Let's say we're looking at Chrome King Gallywix, for example, for Destro Warlock. Now, up here, you can filter by basically anything. If you want to see whenever they cast Ending Resolve, hit that button. Comes up in the timeline. You want to see Dark Pact? It's there as well. If you want to see Healthstones, it's there as well. If you want to see externals like Bloodlust or Power Infusion or whatever these all are, click them and it will turn all of them on and you can compare and contrast whatever you want. This makes reading or like trying to figure out, looking at what people are CDing and things so much easier than what it used to be before Lorrgs was around. With Warcraft Logs, I had to go in here and dig through, all right, well, here's this. Let's find this person. When do they CD? Their cast, their events. Let's find Infernal. They infernaled at 1 and 12, for example. Very, very annoying to look at multiple logs, compare them all. Lorrgs makes all of that so much easier. It's not even funny. If you look here, this person right here is right here in Lorrgs. There are their CDs right there. That 1 and 107. Exactly what you're seeing right here. If I filter by Malevolence and Infernal and so on and so forth, right? So using Lorrgs is a very, very good way of looking at when people CD'd, why they CD'd, where they're CDing, so on and so forth. If you look up here at the top as well, if I remove all these buttons and make it a little easier here, you'll even be able to see timestamps on the encounter, right? For example, this is going to be the total destruction cast on Galley. Here is the Giga Blast 1, Coils 1, Canisters 1, which is like the 4 soaks in the ground. It actually gives you timestamps on what is happening in the encounter and then when players are CDing. So if these are like damage events, for example, on a fight like One Arm Bandit, let's go over here for Destro, right? Let's turn on Infernal and Malevolence. You can see here is Foul Exhaust, the Healing Absorb. Not really a add like damage, if not really an effect that holds CDs for necessarily, like offensive CDs, right? But then you have Reward 1 up here. Then you have Foul Exhaust 3. Then you have actual Spin to Win when the ads begin spawning in, right? If you remove like Foul Exhaust, don't care about that really a whole lot, right? Right here, you've got Spin to Win, ad spawning in. You've got Spin to Win here at 108, ad spawning in. Spin to Win here, 158. And you can see patterns in CDs, right? For example, like, so people are popping on Polis Destro. You're going to have cooldowns of your Infernal carrying over into this window when it comes to Spin to Win, right? Second ads here, you're going to be hitting Malevolence. Some hit Malevolence early before they spawn in. Some hold Malevolence from the spawn in, apply Withers, and then pop Malevolence. But then some pop Malevolence, everything else here at 204, some pop 213. It depends, right? So you can sort of extrapolate out that, okay, this person popped at 103. The ad spawn at 108. So if you know Destro Lock a bit better, they're obviously popping Malevolence where the ad spawn in. They're pre-Malevolencing, you're not getting Wither stacks, but at the same time, if they do that, and they're able to get Malevolence about 10 seconds faster than this person that held for the ad spawning in on this wave here, right? Because this wave spawns at 158. So if they go, 103, they essentially have Malevolence again at 203. This wave is coming in at 2. Right, 158 versus this person that gets Malevolence coverage here with Withers active before the Malevolence versus after here, they're getting Malevolence with Infernal about 10 seconds later. It's sort of desynced. That's a bit awkward, but in the end, if your guild needs that damage profile, you can do that. You can hold CDs. This is a great tool to see when people are CDing, why they're CDing, if they're holding CDs, they're popping CDs, so on and so forth. And going from there, right? More ads spawning in. You can see the phase 2 marker here. People are infernally and malevolencing here. You can even look at Gallywix, for example. Gallywix is a great example of this, right? Because you can see a disparity in when people are infernaling here. If we hide malevolence, people are infernaling. Some are at the end of the fight here. Some are holding, some are for this, some are going 0, 2, 4, 6, and an 8, right? Now, what's happening here, you're infernaling on cooldown, 0, 2, 4. They hold at 6 for the basically intermission 2. End of the fight. This is when you have the final set of ads spawning in with sentries that need to die quickly. Infernal, Havoc, Destro, all that can nuke sentries into the ground, blast them down. So if you want that damage profile, if your raid says, hey, we need you to hold your CDs to this point, whether it's in a progression-based setting or it's better for damage overall, you'll be able to see people are holding CDs here. And you can see, okay, maybe they're holding it for progression. Maybe it's better in damage. Either way, you, the person looking at the log, can decide that and figure it out, but it shows the differences in CDing. Some just say, hey, whatever, we don't need this we have enough damage to kill it regardless. Maybe they have two Destros in, Shadow Priest, they can just go 0, 2, 4, 6, and at the end of the fight, if it lasts long enough, they can get 1 extra Infernal in, whether it's like half an Infernal, whole Infernal, whatever. So they're getting 5 Infernals, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, compared to 1, 2, 3, 4, because they're holding here. But this is a more relevant cleave point, maybe a progression point, a point of danger that they want to assign that cooldown to. And you can see in Lorrgs, whether you're playing Destro, Demo, AF, any class in the game, they held to these for this point, and you can sort of extrapolate out, do I want to do this? Maybe I do, maybe I don't, but this is a great way to look at all that. People are potting, for example, as well. Like some people are potting right here. They're holding their pot for 7 minutes, these Infernals. Other people are potting with their Infernal at 6, right? Power infusions. If you want to see who's getting power infusions on like One Iron Bandit, for example, right? Go over here. Who's getting PIs? PI, bang. It shows PI timings, right? Someone's getting a PI. I don't know why they're getting PI'd here. I have no idea. But regardless, you can see PI timings, whatever you want, defensives, offensives, whatever. You can see it all in Lorrgs. If you populate everything here, it's a mess, but you can filter through every little thing possible and look for cooldowns, defensive usage, offensive usage, all that, and get the best idea what your class can do on any fight in the game, or I guess whatever the top 100 have done, and extrapolate that out for your own guild, whether it's Mythic, Heroic, so on and so forth. You can basically see it all here at lorrgs.io. That's very helpful. Now, shifting gears here and getting back to Warcraft Logs, there are other things you can do in Warcraft Logs if you're not looking at just like using Lorrgs for overall CDs. Let's say, for example, Shelley, he's a champion. Love him. Good friend of mine, all the above. We use his log, for example, right? Honestly, I think one of the best ways to learn how to like read logs, everybody reads logs, I mean, similar but different. I'm not some liquid analyst. I've learned how to read logs, honestly, clicking buttons and learning everything and doing it on my own. Being real. I mean, you can come in here and look at a handful of things, right? If you want to see, click summary, right? Summary will show everybody in the raid, whatever, DPS, HPS, whatever. If you want to see a certain person's gearing, let's say we're looking at Shelley's damage, or Shelley's gearing here, right? You can see talents here, which you already saw on the main page. You want to see talents more in depth, you can do that. You can see his gearing, see his sockets, his enchants, crystalline radiance, void ritual, so on and so forth, whatever you want here, right? What he's using, radiant power, wing grace, a bit more in depth of an overall gearing profile for this fight. It shows secondary stats here as well, but honestly, once again, this is more of a his gear versus your gear thing. You should run your own sims and raid bots to get your best overall results and go from there. I believe this is skewed as well because of Alchemical Chaos Flask being weird, not really sure. But let's say, for example, you want to see more of an in-depth damage breakdown, right? So if you click damage done for all sources, you can see everybody in the raid basically. Shelley pumped this fight, he did more damage than the bikes did. Strong individual. If I want to see just his breakdown, you can go up here and select him, or you can click his name here as well. It will bring up his breakdown. He had Wild Imp damage here, Dreadstalkers, your tier set. Pretty big overall. Gloomhounds, Ritual, so on and so forth. This is the same for basically every class, right? Up here you can see, obviously, this is his damage breakdown. You can see he peaked a lot in the actual blue line here. This blue marker is Bloodlust, or Heroism, whatever you refer to it as, right? If you want to see damage in that part of the fight specifically, you can click, drag, and zoom in. This will zoom into that part of the fight specifically. You can see his breakdown here then. Dreadstalkers, Imps, Greater Dreadstalker, Ritual, Gloomhound, whatever, what have you. And it will show you like what, the overall breakdown was for him in this part of the encounter. If you want to see at the end of the fight for whatever reason, whatever part of the fight you want to see, you can zoom into. If you want to make it easier on yourself, and the fight is actually broken up into like phases, right? Fury Road, Pit Stop, which is basically the lust period here, you can just click Stage 1, Fury Road. This is without the breakdown happening on Vexy. If you want to see the burn phase, click here, Pit Stop. There you go, bang. If you want to remove this, if you want to see everyone's damage again during the pit stop, just read this. Here's the entire raid's damage again during that exact phase 2 without having to zoom in, really. So it depends what you're looking at. You can sort of extrapolate that out too. If you want to see, for example, let's say you want to look at Shelley's buffs for the raid, right? You can go under buffs here for him. You can see what was active on him. So you can see he got a power infusion at about midway through the actual burn, right? Actually, no, at the start, right? If you click this, it'll show the exact timestamp. It was given to him by Wobbin, right? At 2:22, it expired at 2:37. You can do this with any buff, whether it's like the end is coming, which is the Void Ritual effect. If you want to look at Radiant Power, he had a Radiant Power proc. Actually, had 3 Radiant Power procs in this window, I think, right? I believe a 3 count, maybe possibly. I don't even know. But Demonic Cores, Moxie Frenzy, Time Warp, Calling, every buff that was on him in stage 2 of the pit stop specifically is under here, showing duration. Whether he had, let's say, for example, he had a 52% uptime on Radiant Power. He had PI active for a third of the actual encounter, right? He had Void Ritual active for 44% of the actual pit stop, burn phase, right? Here's Jasper Diamond. Here is basically whatever you want, Ascension, Ascendance, all that. If you want to see buffs, you can filter by that and go into here. If you're looking a bit more in depth as well, you can look at things like healing. You can see his healing, whatever he soul leech, this and that. Debuffs, you can see debuffs on players. He was soaked in oil at a certain point. He had Unrelenting Carnage, Bomb Voyage. There you go. If you're looking for certain things are a little bit more in-depth and harder to find, but you can dig for them regardless if you're looking for them, right? If you want to look at like his actual resource management, for example, right? Click resources here. It'll come up as hit points. You can see attack power, spell power, soul shards, Warlock. Very relevant, right? You can see his overall shard usage in this window, right? So he hit 5 shards basically at the start here, his tiring thing. And you can see he's basically casting bolts, leveraging his shards well, not over capping or coming close to capping at all, barring the initial start here, his tiring thing. Pretty good overall shard usage. If you go out to the whole fight here, you can see the entire fight. Really didn't cap a whole lot. No overcapping either. 5 shards, right back down to either 2 or 3. With hand or dog casting, so on and so forth. The overall generation of resources, Demon Bolt, Shadow Bolt, Soul Strike, Inferno Bolt, Soul Conduit, all here, right? It shows where it generated, where it came from, the actual gain, any waste of shards here. So you can get a little in-depth on resources here as well. You can dig around more as well under, like, if you want to look at boss damage or his boss damage dealt, you can click enemies here, right? All sources, it looks at Vexy, it looks at the gear grinders, or grinder, the bikes, right? If I go enemies under Vexy, you can see what the boss did, right? At the end of the fight, and it jumps out of the tank and starts doing stuff. It meleeed somebody for 60 AK, it didn't do anything. If you want to see the breakdown of what the gear grinder is doing, right? His main source of damage is the raid, exhaust fumes, backfire, bomb voyage. So you can get really in depth looking at even like enemy mob damage breakdowns in here, depending how in depth you want to get, which you can look at. You can even get super in depth. You use random filters and expressions to filter out certain things, absorb, so on and so forth. But if you look at like general damage breakdowns and things for players, that's like the gist of how you do it. If you're looking at cast sequencing, and this is where things get even more interesting, right? If you're looking at general cooldowns, once again, Lorrgs, great tool. If you're looking at cast sequencing, right? So let's say we're going back to friendlies here, fine Shelley, right? Summary damage done, whatever damage taken, all this stuff here. Casts. So you can click cast here. And this is where this component comes into play, right? So you have his general cast here. He had 69 casts of Hand Gul'dan, 67 Demon Bolt, Shadow Bolt 29, so on and so forth. If you want to see the actual timeline of when he casts spells and sort of trying, when and why, right? Timelines. And here. So here is his actual timeline of every single spell he cast and when it resolved, right? So you can see him opening up on a Shadow Bolt, into a Grimoire, into a Purple Dog, Shadow Bolt, Dogs, Hands, Bolts, Hands, Tyrant, right? Now, if you move this down a bit more here, you'll notice that there's, I think this might be a cancel cast here. Maybe there at times there are cancel cast here. If you can see him in the log here, he might not have many at all. That's great. He's an awesome player. They look like little red indicators. But regardless, what you'll see in a lot of players who are maybe looking at their logs initially, like trying to come in here and break down their casts and timelines and things as well, is that honestly, people quite often don't cast enough in raid encounters, whether it's due to like silent movement, like stutter stepping from random times you don't need to, random mechanics, over moving, overreacting to things, or your spell queue window. I'm going to be honest, I am not the smartest person when it comes to spell queue and things, but you know who is? Forgy. He's a very smart individual. He has a great video on the most important setting in WoW for DPS, spell queue. And quite often, you can see somebody having an improper spell queue window set in logs as well. I don't have a log here, for example, but if I had one, I can show you. There'll be like little gaps in between their casts. It won't be like right up against each other here, right? So like you can see basically Shelley's cast of Hand Gul'dan resolves, finishes casting success at 7.441. And then literally at the exact same time, this bolt is being cast. There is like zero loss whatsoever between them. If somebody has spell queue set improperly, you'll see little gaps here. Like for example, this ends at 5.003. This begins at 5.013. There'll be more gap. There'll be like a noticeable gap you can see here. It'll be like 5.003 and it begins at like 5.5 something. You'll see little gaps, and it's because your spell queue lag tolerance is too low. I believe it's too low. Watch this video. I'll link it in the description. This is actually very, very important and can change. It literally finds you free damage if it is set improperly. So if this is your issue with like, not casting as many, if you're not casting as many spells as you should be, This right here can very, very well answer that problem for you. Maybe it's a mix of this and or silent movement. Maybe you're moving too much for mechanics. Maybe you don't need to, so on and so forth, whatever, right? But I would encourage everybody that doesn't know about their spell key window to watch this 11-minute video in the description. Shout out Forgy, you are awesome. Now, if you're putting that aside, if you're looking at like more of a text like event version of cast sequencing, you can go under here, still under cast, right? For Shelly example, under events, and you can go under here and look at more of like a timeline. This is why I look at for the most part of casts and stuff, right? So you can see on Lorrgs, right? If you're under here again, probably find this fight here too. Let's go, I think it's Vexy, right? Oh, there's Shelly right there. See, let's get rid of all these filters. Shelly's at the top here. And we have his parse up on the other page, right? So we can go bang, 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 get rid of all this stuff. It's fine. So we can see he cast Grimoire at basically the second end of the fight and Tyrant at 16, right? So hop over here, look at this. Once again, there's Grimoire, 1 second into the fight. Tyrant's right there at 16. Lorrgs, this log here is this log right here. So if you're looking for more of like a general, hey, he's doing this, at, 1, 16, 118, Lorrgs is great. If you're looking for an even more in-depth breakdown, you can come in here, cast, events, and see the exact timeline. Shadowbolt into Grimoire, into Gloomhound, into Shadowbolt, into Dreadstalkers, Handed Ghouldan sequencing, Shadowbolt, Tyrant, House of Cards, Blood Fury popped after Tyrant, all that. If you note here, he is not potion. There is no potion being cast until the burn, right there, give or take. And you'll see that also here, probably around 225, give or take. There's potion right there at 220, right? So if you're looking for an even more in-depth when it comes to actual like breakdown, like what did he cast at every single timestamp in a text event-based format, this is a phenomenal way to do it. This is how I look at most cast breakdowns. You can see people are seeing exactly where cards is at, Fury's at, more of a text-based breakdown if you want. If you're looking at Lorrgs, you can just click this too. Just click it. And there's the log as well, right there. This log is literally this log right here. So both tools that work very, very well together to find the, you can call it optimal sequencing abilities, cast, cooldowns, all that, so on and so forth. And one of the things that I see quite often when players are saying, hey, I want to improve, I don't know how to read logs, I don't know what I'm doing wrong rotationally, is I'll pull this up looking at logs, and the opener is typically a pretty big, at times can be a bit of a disaster. There's things out of sequence, there's things that are being sequenced improperly, whether it's Demo, Destro, AF, and this is a great way to compare your opener to somebody else's here too, right? Let's say, for example, you want to compare two people in the raid. Let's see, they have 2 Warlocks in. I think we have 2 Warlocks in our kill last night, right? Let's see here. Here's our Galliwas kill last night, right? So this is myself and this is Muffin. We're both playing Destro here. This is a good example, actually. Malevolence, a button we have, is on the GCD. It's been that way for a long time. I hit it. I'm pull. Guess what? I was on the GCD. And unfortunately, it didn't go off. I didn't realize it until later. So here, we can compare myself by going right up here to cast. Up here to compare. You can go right here. Compare myself to McMuffins if you want. This will pull up basically our damage comparisons, our gearing comparisons, whatever we're playing. You want to go to damage done. You can see our damage breakdown here. Both actually pretty close. A bit more wither damage from him, Chaos Bolts, Shadow Burn, Conflagrate, Overlord, give or take, and some things might change. Some are a little higher, some are a little lower comparatively based on RNG, so on and so forth. You can see where our damage peaked a bit more. You can see why. You can see right here, I peaked a bit later. My Malevolence was a little later, right? I forgot that Malevolence on the GCD, whatever. You can see, for the most part, comparing our logs, we have very similar peaks and valleys here. We're both sitting at the same point. If you go to cast and events, you can see and compare literally our openers are basically the exact same thing. Soulfires into Special Recall. I hit it a little earlier. Really doesn't matter at all. Yeah, so Infernal, Potion, House of Cards being popped here, Shadowburn. Malevolence is here. You can see I didn't hit mine until about here, 4 seconds later, because I hit it on the GCD, but unfortunately, it's on the GCD, didn't register, so I hit it again. I noticed here, cancel the Chaos Bolt cast, hit Malevolence. Then once again, we're bolting all the same. If you want to compare yourself to someone else in the raid, maybe one lock's doing better, this is a great way to do it. If you're looking at rotational stuff, if you're looking at raw cast, looking at raw damage, looking at whatever you want, you can even compare yourself to somebody else in the actual raid. I also wanted to mention as well very quickly that you also can filter by defensives, not just offensives, under this cast events table. Let's say, for example, you're looking for, whenever I cast Dark Pact or anybody cast X ability, you can click here. All targets basically being like anybody in the raid, what I'm targeting, or more so all abilities. Like if I already have myself selected, I can go here, or anybody I'm looking at. When did this person health pot? I potted at 143 and 7. When did they cast Dark Pact or Ending Resolve? I resolved at 144, 350, 604, 733. I cast Dark Pact a lot at 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, basically almost on cooldown, but not on cooldown, at points where I needed to, at points where it was relevant, right? So it can be used for offensives, defensives, whatever, what have you. You can do a lot of things here, right? You can even track buffs and things under events as well. You can go under here. Let's say for anybody, you can go under here, filter by the whole raid, buffs, events, all abilities. So you want to find Power Infusion, go to P, Power Infusion, who got it? Power Infusion was cast from Cindy Lou to Asuna. There's also him PIing himself with this talent, whatever. Myelin on this person here at 4 seconds in, 3 seconds in, find PI targets, find recipients of blessings of whatever. If someone's playing Blessing Paladin, I don't know what it's even called anymore. Blessing of Dawn, Dusk, whatever. There you go, bang. You know, whatever you want to see, you can do. The more, honestly, one of the best ways to learn how to like dig through and read logs and stuff as well. It's how I taught myself. Go in here and click buttons. If you got a half an hour at some point and you're a little bored, go in here and click buttons, click around. You can literally learn things that you wouldn't even think were possible. You can just dig around and find, oh, this is cool. I can see this ability and who this is targeting and this and that and XYZ and resources and defensives and all that, right? Some things you can see through with Lorrgs very easily. Some more in-depth things like exact timings and cast sequencing and stuff. Knowing how to read Warcraft logs is also very important. I would encourage you to do both. Now, in the end, what it all really comes down to is, maybe not all what it comes down to, but I think a lot of people often do just see people in a world first setting or a higher end setting, whatever, and see these insane numbers and say, I can do that. How do I do that? And they try and, you know, break down every little bit of certain things, try and do little tricks here and there. But quite often they don't end up knowing or learning the fundamentals. Focus on the basics of the spec. If it's a new spec you're learning for the first time, just know the core rotation. Get that down. Don't be afraid to hit a dummy. Like, not being me the dummy, like a target dummy game. That was a terrible joke. I don't know. I'm not a dad, but I have dad jokes. Anyways, don't be afraid to hit a dummy in game, whether it's a single target one or stack dummies for a while, to get the core part of your rotation down. When it becomes like subliminal, when it becomes like second nature to you, when you can almost like predict, or you subliminally know when those, you know, procs are coming in based on how the spec functions, you can just do it like just naturally, without having to like hyper focus on buttons and cooldowns and rotations and all that, and then do the fight better mechanically. That's when it all begins to come together, and we can really try and fully optimize little things here and there and move on to becoming a better and better player. People often just focus too much on the high end stuff. People are doing this, doing that. Oh, they have better gear than me. They have better this. And yeah, the gear very likely is better, but in the end, if you can have, I could swap my gear with somebody else who's 670, and if the rotation is Omega scuffed and not just what you should be doing, they're not going to beat you. They're not going to beat them. I'm going to beat them regardless, right? Maybe not me because I'm old, but you know what I mean? Like, point being, the fundamentals are very, very important. And it's probably the biggest thing most overlook, right? Get that down at a baseline. There's plenty of guides out there. My site for Warlocks, Wowhead, in general, video guides on YouTube, so on and so forth. If you want to watch or ask a question, come in the stream, ask a question, right? There's no problem with that at all. But fundamentals are very important. But if you're looking to simulate your character, read Warcraft logs, look at Lorrgs, so on and so forth. That's a great tool. On top of that, things like Liquid Auras, where you can set audio reminders, which I'm doing for next tier. Already looking into that, doing that for next tier, are very, very helpful as well. Having an audio cue in your ear to say, hey, hit your Malevolence at this point, hit your Bestial Wrath at this point, use Bubble at this point, is very, very effective. Having these tools around, there's no shame in using them, right? So knowing how to sim your character, how to look at Warcraft logs, how to plan CDs with Lorrgs, so on and so forth, can definitely help you take those steps to get to the next level and be better and better. But proper defensive usage, baseline understandings of how the class functions, everything, are also exceptionally important. So getting all that down, step one, and when you are able to finally get it down and have it become second nature, and it all comes together, that's where you become a better and better player. So hopefully this video was helpful. Hopefully you guys understood a bit of it. Once again, shout out to Forgy for his spell queue video. Yeah, watch that again if you haven't. It's in the description below. But hopefully it helps you out a little bit. I get a lot of questions about log review and stat weights and all that stuff, and I always feel bad when I can't answer questions about stat weights because I just can't. Nobody can. I'm not trying to ignore anybody. Nobody is. It's literally an impossible question to answer if you're looking for the best optimal stats for your character. Everyone's gear varies. When it comes to general log review. You know, people can help and do that. That's great. If you ask in random class discords, various ones that can help you there as well. But quite often, I think knowing how to read your logs and showing somebody, what's it saying? Show a man how to fish, something like that. He fishes forever. Oh, something like that, fish. But showing people actually how to read logs, how to interpret things, how to plan cooldowns, I think is a much better alternative to help to saying, hey, you're doing XYZ wrong, because they don't know how to do that next time, the time after, when they're having the same problems, right? If you show them how to do that, how to compare things, it makes life much easier, and they can make those comparisons in the long run. So hopefully this video helps you out. I'm just a Florida man. I'm not an analyst for anybody. This is how I do stuff. If there's things you want to suggest, throw it down below in the comment section, and I'll do it and or pin it somewhere. We'll figure it out, you know. But hopefully y'all enjoyed it. If you guys like the video, hit the like and sub buttons below. Helps out a ton. And yeah, catch y'all again soon. Peace.